Call this meeting of the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Meeting to order. It is 4:04 on February 26th, 2026. Chairperson's statement. This meeting is being recorded by the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Hearing none. We're going to have an introduction of committee members since we have, well, we always do this individually. I'll just make a point that any votes that are taken will be roll call votes since we have a couple of members that are remote. And I'll start the introductions. My name is George Tolumsis. I'm the planning board representative to this committee. I'm the vice chair on this committee. Because the chair is absent from this meeting, I will be chairing this meeting, and per the chair's delegation, I typically facilitate these meetings as I will do today. I'll pass it to my left.
Francoise Hatt, member of the public.
Graham Moranis, member of the public.
Nancy Hazard,
I'll continue with the members of the committee. So we'll go to the screen and Max and then Jonah. Yeah.
My name is Max Webb, and I am a Precinct 9 City Councilor designee.
Oh, awesome. I didn't realize that, Max. Welcome.
welcome.
And I am Jonah Keene, a public member.
I am Amy Kaling, the Community Economic Development Director and the Planning Department designee.
And then we'll go to the person who designated you, Amy.
I'm Mello Wise, the Planning Director.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks for coming, Amy. You too.
Next, we have public comment, but we currently have no members of the public. So if we do have someone arrive, we can, I know Hannah, as chair, has often been a little flexible about the timing of that, so I will panel her usual preference. The next item is for approval of the January 22nd meeting minutes, but they are not yet available. I did want to mention that I wasn't at the January meeting, but I saw a preliminary draft, and I think that at that meeting, the December minutes hadn't been available. So I just wanted to check that's accurate, and just to note that.
If that's what it said in the minutes, then yes, I would say that is accurate.
Okay, so it looked like the December minutes were going to be addressed at this meeting, so it sounds like we'll have
So buckle up for March.
buckle up for March. Very good. Nice way to
Get a
put it.
little water because I had banana bread. I'll be right back.
Okay. So you got to provide beverages along with banana. Okay. Pause for just a second, so Bram comes back. The next item is kind of a return to an item that was discussed some length last month. It's master plan update. There are two components to this item. The first is chapter update starter discussion. We have 10 minutes set aside for that. And then we have SGIC event planning subcommittee update. So chapter update, the description is discussion of chapter update goals, including incorporation of revised chapters, discussion with member Moranis and director of planning LOIs regarding incorporation of revised chapters and any additional work needed. Before we return to Bram and Ella, I wanted to just weigh in a little bit because I wasn't able to be here last month. The recording hasn't been it hasn't been available anywhere, but I was able to. Amy was kind enough to give me the rough draft minutes, and a couple of things I wanted to clarify. Ella hadn't been clear about what had been provided to the planning board. I wanted to make absolutely clear all of the materials for the two new chapters were presented to the planning board, including the full narrative, of course, and then the implementation tables. It was just once all these materials came to the planning board, the planning board put a special effort into looking over the wording of the implementation tables to take full responsibility for that, review them in detail, and make some edits. The vast majority of it was approved as is, but the planning board did want to take responsibility and did make some edits. Some were minor, like changing from bylaw to ordinance, which bylaw was for an example from a town, whereas ordinance is for a city. But some of them were substantive, taking some things out that felt like they were in the wrong chapter. They belonged in a transportation chapter, for example. And some were seemed factually erroneous or something like that, or some were duplicative. So there were some changes made. So I just want to be clear about that, that all of this was reviewed by the planning board. And I want to say this is having been involved in the first master plan process when I wasn't on the planning board. I was a citizen who was on I was put on the master plan advisory committee. And I ended up being the chair of the transportation subcommittee. And so I know that there was a lot of hands involved with putting together those material, and we had a very active consultant. So there were a lot of hands that went involved in putting that together. So we had the students as a consultant in this case, and we had, a subcommittee of this committee plus members of this committee that put this together and then presented this to the planning board. So there was a lot of stuff that went before it got sent to the planning board, and then the planning board took responsibility for after reviewing it. So it's kind of a parallel process. So I just wanted to kind of offer that there was a lot of input prior, and then the planning board taking it on and reviewing it and making some changes. And there were some changes. I wasn't on the planning board, as I said, at that time, so I don't know exactly what adjustments were made by the planning board. I know the planning board chair at that time was on a number of the subcommittees, served on a number of the subcommittees and chaired some. So it was different in that regard. Just want to offer that comparison of the two processes. And the other thing I wanted to mention is, and I'd sent, because I couldn't be here last time, I had sent an email to Hannah and Amy, but I just want to be real explicit about having participated remotely. I was sick for both meetings, but in the planning board meeting the evening before, and just want to be clear, the planning board's input, and this is related to the whether the new chapters were replacing, substituting, or supplementing. And basically the statements are: the planning board came to the agreement that the new land use and natural, historic, and cultural resources chapters should be considered as additions to the original chapters, not as replacement. So this committee's dissemination about these two chapters should somehow incorporate the unaccomplished items from the original version. The planning board was clear that such dissemination should not be treated as an archive of already accomplished items from those chapters. And then added, the SGIC could, of course, continue to create separate documentation listing master plan items that have been accomplished, as we've done in the past. So just want to make clear, it's trying to retain unaccomplished items from the original chapters. So not to lose those, but to keep those alive to be continue to be worked on. So I hope that's some clarification, which I would have offered last month if I'd been here. So I hope that's helpful.
Was there a determination made about which things, which action items or which goals or which strategies from the old plan haven't been accomplished yet? Do we know which one is which?
That is more what this committee has tracked than what the planning board itself has tracked.
Do we have an accounting of that anywhere?
Some. I mean, that's what we have done in fits and starts to some degree. We have some documentation of that, some tables of that. That's been a lot of the work of this committee. I can't say an absolutely comprehensive.
Because I haven't seen anything that said, here's the updates that says which is what's been done. when I visited with Eric,
Mhm.
he had been tracking on his own
Mhm.
the land use chapter and had a nice accounting, indexed to all the indices of the old plan. But I haven't seen that here. And so, and Ella and I talking, and we're asking ourselves if there's something that's in the old plan at the level of a goal or at the level of a strategy, and maybe it's at the level of one action item in the new plan, the new chapter. Is that because it's been accomplished or because it's been demoted? And we didn't know how to answer that question because we didn't have access to this thing you're saying. So certainly I'd love to see it. If you know that there's a document somewhere with what's been done, what hasn't.
As I say, and I'm looking to Nancy too, because we've been on this for the whole time. And we haven't had a totally comprehensive systemic approach to this. We've done it in various formats and forms, but we have been doing some of this. So I would think in some ways this this process would spur us to review and revisit this to be more comprehensive about that. So that would be.
So if I could rephrase, you're suggesting perhaps that the people who are around this table now might know enough by remembering or by looking at whatever documents they have access to from before I got here to be able to go through the old plan and say, except for the things that, of course, Eric already documented, done, not done, done, not done, done, not done.
To a certain degree, yeah.
So that's a thing that's worth doing, an agenda item for the future, perhaps you're saying.
I'll ask Nancy about to weigh in on that too.
I think there's enough knowledge to be able to look through it pretty quickly, actually. I don't think it would take forever.
Awesome. That's great news.
So we'll compare, we'll have the two.
Well, this one is just looking at the old,
Just look at the old one,
saying what's done, what is.
try to trim down what's
Yeah.
still alive, so to speak.
We got 20 things and we're trying to see, are those in the new plan? That's not so hard. 200 starts to be very hard. But if you first go through and say, here are all the things that are not done, and then those are the things we compare with the new plan, that's an easier differential to assess.
Are we talking about for the entire master plan?
Just for the new chapters.
The two chapters.
Although we probably should have been like for economic development, if we're ever going to be redoing that.
Yeah.
We're going to need to do an assessment of what's accomplished.
Yeah, well, and I would assume that, so just thinking about the chapters and the tasks that relate to me, that's something internally. I would think each department head is doing that work on their own. That's feeling to me like a big and not necessarily the most productive thing for SGIC to take on, I guess. If back when I thought we were talking about the whole master plan, that seemed to me
Yeah, I
like,
thought that's what you.
I can't fathom the amount of time that would take, and I'm not sure to what end. And like as a whole task without involving department heads. That feels to me like we're just updating the entire master plan, which feels like a big lift.
Yes.
Yeah, I was confused also about whether you're talking about the entire thing or just the two chapters that were recently updated. And as far as the two chapters that were recently updated, this committee asked Eric to take the spreadsheet and to update it before we started. So, and then the economy kids could look at it. I shouldn't call it kids, but excuse me. So the spreadsheet that you're talking about that you found that Eric has, and which I think I also have, but anyway, he did that.
For land use.
And also for NHC, I believe. Because there were the two chapters. And
The thing he shared with me didn't include NHC, so
Okay.
it may be that he or someone else has that, in which case you should definitely go get it.
I thought I remembered though, when we were going through them, we were looking at things that were accomplished. So I'm surprised you're saying that he removed them before it came to us.
No,
But
she's
you
saying,
didn't remove them. I
Oh.
said that when we handed over the mountain of materials that we handed to the Conway students, that was one of them. And they were supposed to look at it and be sure that things weren't lost. Now, maybe things were lost, maybe they didn't do a good job, but I can't speak to that.
One of the things, last meeting, George, that somebody asked, wasn't me, was, is there an accounting by the Conway students of how they looked at the old, took out the stuff that was done, left the stuff that wasn't done, so that you could see how we ended up with the implementation tables that we have.
It sounds like Nancy's saying that's not what they did.
Yeah.
Oh, right, you weren't sitting in, Jonah, you were. Weren't you sitting in on the Conway School?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was involved, yeah.
Yeah, so no, we didn't, the committee, as far as I know, did not ask them to do that or justify every little detail. It's because you think about it, it's a, what, 10-week progress project they have.
Yeah, sure. I'm not implying anything else.
It's not, it just wasn't gonna happen.
So this is some of the inner workings of this process. The four members of this committee, and Eric is one who took, it sounds like, the lead on
Mary and Jonah and myself.
Yep.
And
Eric. And Eric took the lead on organizing a lot of these materials to initiate the process. And so it sounds like some of that, and this is what I hadn't been clear on exactly how that worked. And so that sounds like that's important to know exactly how that was put together and what if that did kind of what we're talking about, as far as sorting out what was accomplished and what wasn't, what needed to be included. So if that's what you're saying and that's what you recall, Jonah, and unfortunately Eric's not available to affirm that or clarify about that. So
I would just add that everyone, well, particularly Mary and myself, I guess, Jonah, because you weren't involved in the, over history, over time. But it wasn't just Eric that offered materials. We all sort of brainstormed what materials exist in the city of Greenfield that has to do with this plan and what should they have. So, for example, I put out there the pollinator plan for them, that the FERCog had done. And I remember Mary put out a whole pile of things that had to do with the tree committee and, on and on. So we onslaughted them with, stuff. It was, how they couldn't go through all of it. But Mary and Eric had access to lots of maps and all kinds of things that they shared with the Conway students.
I'd like to just share a couple of things and then hand it over to Ella, rather than make you go first, unless you want to.
Sure, you go ahead.
So I've been, ever since I, moved the old plan onto Airtable and was then considering, okay, there's this column for status. What do we do about that? Is it our responsibility to be tracking status? And I was thinking, as an implementation committee, I can't imagine what would be a higher responsibility than that. And when I spoke to Eric, I said, do you think that one of the things that we should be doing in our meetings is going through the plan and tracking status? He said, absolutely. That's what you guys should be up to. And then because we have a document with updated status, we have a reason to work more closely with the department heads because now they have that. So I came up with a 2-page sort of proposal for how the committee should in general be updating the 2014 plan. I shared it with Amy and Hannah. I think I CC'd you with that, although I'm not sure if we ever spoke to it. I also shared it with Ella. And Ella, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe what you said is that makes a lot of sense for going forward what to do. But clearly the 2 chapters we have now are a fait accompli. So it's not something you're going to be able to backwards apply. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay. So for the next meeting, I can share with Hannah and Amy, because it wasn't an agenda item that I presented here. It's something that I just came up with, like, here's what the committee could be doing to make this happen. I wrote it up after speaking to Eric. So, so one like thing is this whole, how do we track update status for the chapters that we have? The next thing was asking the question, is it possible to incorporate the new chapters into the old in such a way that if somebody said, hey, I'd like to look at what the master plan says about land use, what would they find? Looking at the implementation tables, because the way we relate to a big narrative is very different than the way that we relate to implementation tables. And depending on what your job is, you're going to be either interested in one or the other, depending on what you're trying to do. Like there's the go and find whether the plan talks about this so that I can justify doing it because it's in the plan, which is just a nice little search and find thing that's easy. But if you say, well, gee, I actually want to, I'm a department director, I want to go and be doing the thing that's in the plan. Am I going to go and read the narrative, or am I going to go look at the implementation table? And if I'm going to go look at the implementation table, gosh, it'd be handy to be able to filter out the things that are already done and just say, oh, here's a nice set. So all of this updating can be making the plan more accessible and useful to directors now. But to do that, we need those updates. But then we also need the relationship with the directors. Amy, a couple of seconds ago, said something about, for her, it's easier to imagine her updating the economic development chapter than imagining that the whole committee would go around and do it. Is that what I kind of heard you say? Not that it would be easy, but that it would be easier.
No, that's not what
I
I said.
didn't understand that. Okay, I do
That's okay.
hallucinate a lot, I suppose.
I was probably not particularly articulate, but
And I know that when I spoke to Ella, and you correct me if I'm wrong, this time I'm going to get this one right, Ella, I'm pretty sure. That you
I
said-
can also share
That-
what
that-
I
yeah,
said.
that-
I'm happy to
that-
speak for myself.
That no, asking the department heads to go through and update the chapter's status of what's done and not done was going to be a big burden for them.
I do think that the SJIC reaching out to department heads on the status of the master plan will be very difficult to yield substantive, detailed responses.
So it's a job that could be done. Maybe it would have been easier to be done a while ago. And now the question is, what is the payoff for doing it if there's going to be a political cost and a time cost and everything else?
Mhm.
So that's with updating. So then in terms of integrating, do I imagine that a department head is going to go, let me first go and look at the filtered what's done and not done from the 14 plan, and then go and look at the filtered done and not done from the 2024 plan, and somehow imagine those things together, even though it isn't being presented to me as something integrated, which it can't be unless we were to re-index everything in the new implementation table so that they'd show up in the same database.
Mm.
So what I was working on and Ella was watching me do and participating is trying to look at, well, how do these things match up? Like, is there any way to fit them together? The committee said, don't go and try to make that merge, which I didn't try to do, but we were just comparing them. And I had sent Amy an accounting of that, a couple of spreadsheets a couple of days ago, Amy. We had a chance to look at it.
Yeah.
But at least at the level of goals and strategies, we can say, here are the things in the old plan. Here's where they showed up if they showed up in the new. What we present that makes this useful to a department director who's cleaving to the implementation tables, I don't know. That's a real hard one too. But then the question that came up to me as I was doing this work is, are the department heads still cleaving to the 2014 implementation tables? I'm not a department head, so I have no idea. I know Eric was, because he showed me those updated things that he had. But when I spoke to Ella, she said she didn't think that they were. I want to hand it over to Ella. My work ended with me saying, here's what I see in the comparison between these two things. Here's a narrative where I'm just writing and looking at the new plan and the narrative of the new plan and saying, oh, gee, all the stuff about the trees, look at all that. And look, there's all this stuff about pollinators. And that stuff wasn't really in the old plan, at all compared to how much it's in the new. Here's some things that aren't in the new that are in the old. Because if we wanted to do some kind of presentation to somebody saying that we've compared the two things, a document would be helpful. But then thinking, what if nobody's using the old implementation tables? What do we do with that?
I'll call on you, Francois, briefly, and then want to get to Ellis,
I'm done.
part of the presentation.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand. You say you compare the two, but what's the product? You have like a table?
I have a couple of spreadsheets
Okay,
comparing goals to goals and strategies to strategies.
okay.
And in a situation in which I look at a strategy and it's nowhere in the goals or strategies of the new plan, the Airtable allows me to just do a keyword search. And it goes and finds in whatever, this is what you couldn't do in the PDF. It finds wherever that shows up in the new plan and then shows you, oh, this is in, element this, goal this, strategy that. That's where that's showing up. You've got something over here that's goal 3, and over here we're finding it in implementation action 1.2.5. What does it mean that it's there?
Ellen,
Thank you for all this discussion, and it does seem like we've had a similar discussion at the meetings that I've attended. And I want to thank Bram for all of his work setting up Airtable and attempting comparisons of the old plan to the new plan. I have a very short little summary of the work that I've done, and I just want to step back because I feel like maybe I contributed to this ongoing discussion. So my intention was at the first meeting that I attended, there was discussion of how to roll out the updated chapters that this committee has worked so hard on. And I felt like I want to wrap my head around this a little bit more. I want to make sure that we're clear about what the chapters are updating. How are they different than the existing chapters before we go public? And then that led to many interesting conversations about how difficult that comparison is that Bram has articulated very well, because the numbering is different and the goals are different and the strategies are different. And Bram, again, attempted a lot of technical ways of solving that were hard for me to engage with, but precise and accurate. I finally just did a brief comparison that was not nearly as precise as Bram's, so I apologize for that. I hope, though, that it's easy to understand. I kind of went with understanding. Oh, can you turn on the sharing? Oh, sorry, I didn't print this out. Rather than accuracy, went for accessibility.
Mhm.
It might be faster if you just plug this into your
interesting.
computer, and then I think you should be able to. So I don't think it's shut off. I think that will just give you the power. Maybe. There you go. Oh, sharing turned on. Okay.
No, it's not.
And then I think you have to click, Amy, share to the meeting.
Oh, viewing locally. Yep, it's a good thing.
Maybe you have to make Ella the host.
Share to meeting. Nope, it's plugging in did that.
Great, thanks. Whoa.
Look at your.
Why is
Your
it still saying the
desktop.
host isn't
Whoa.
allowing sharing for this meeting? Still saying.
Yes, I am. Oh, host tools. Okay, here we go. Wait a minute.
Saying that, and just go to.
Okay, go.
And
Right
Ella,
now.
you can sign out of Zoom. You don't need to be logged into Zoom, Ella. You're connected through the City Hall meeting. So you're
Plugging
logged.
in.
There you
So
go.
what Zoom
Here we
do I
go.
open
It's on
up?
Don't Zoom. You don't need
Oh,
to.
got it. Yeah, got it. Cool, thank you. Okay. So this is really cursory, kind of just like my thoughts. I had the 2 hard copies, and this is not as sophisticated as what Bram set up. I apologize for that. But my brief notes comparing the 2014 master plan and the update.
Mhm.
Just at the goal level and the strategy level. And then I read the tasks to kind of get my understanding of what the task would be. And used my professional opinion to interpret those and compare those. So I've labeled here there, and as Bram has noted, it's difficult because it's not a one-to-one correlation. The
Right.
goals are different. Some strategies are goals. A lot of things got moved in between chapters. So I really tried to like zoom
Between
out.
chapters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
So that's what my understanding of Bram emphasizing this issue of indexing
Mhm.
because they're kind of non-hierarchical and hard to compare. But instead of that, I basically just zoomed out and tried to synthesize things in my head and make some notes.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
So the 2014 master plan resources chapter was about, this is just like really high level, but goals were related to cultural identity. This would be a lot easier if I had printed it. Sorry.
No,
I can do this later, but so there's cultural identity, and the strategy was about a marketing plan, and that was basically carried forward into the updated chapter. Oh, I want to reiterate that my intention in this comparison is really to help me wrap my head around it. It's not at all to interrogate the process. It was as thorough as how my students can do, led by very capable people, including my predecessor, and all of you went through a detailed process. So I am not interested in reopening that. It's more about what do we do now? Goals around recreational opportunities. The strategy was about recreational facilities. So some tasks under that were achieved, such as combining Parks and Rec department into one department, which I assume they did because now it's Parks and Rec department. And otherwise, things are addressed through open space and recreation plan. There's no goal or strategy about that now, but there is an open space and recreation plan. That's a separate document. Yeah.
We have one. Yay.
In terms of land conservation, identifying and conserving priority land was generally carried forward. There was a strategy about reforming environmental regs. Some of those tasks are in process, such as the noise ordinance. I've been involved with that. Yeah. Then there was one about townwide events, and this was removed, interestingly. So from my digging around a little bit, it looks like, so there was a strategy about a downtown cultural center. It looks like that was kind of pursued.
That building.
Reached a dead end, yeah. So that one was removed and is not in the updated. There's one.
Just a quick question. When you say removed, intentionally removed or not continued?
Not continued, not included in the updated chapter.
Because
Good
that's
distinction.
the group, our town has agreed not to continue.
No, I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, remove means not included in the updated.
Okay.
So that's a better,
Because
yeah.
it could be not included because it was an oversight, or it could be not included because it was intentionally, it's not going to work.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
yeah,
Shouldn't.
yeah.
So it could be something, oh, we missed including that. We want to keep it.
Uh-huh,
That's the kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I kind of trust that all of it was intentional, but that's a good distinction. I'm not sure. Then there was a strategy at townwide programming, and that was not in the updated, which I was surprised about. And I don't have an explanation for that. Then there was one about cultural district. Achieved. Okay. No one else thought. I don't know what the backstory of that is.
Somewhat actually was achieved because the parks took on created new programs and stuff. Anyway.
I didn't know that.
That's
See, thanks.
That's my opinion.
This is
I don't know if
reading.
other people agree, so I should just be quiet.
I didn't catch that note, sorry.
No, this is
Never
all
mind,
me, you
never
know,
mind.
my 2 months
This is part of the
experience. So,
updating process, the memory that people have.
great.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
I'll
so
be quiet. I don't
that's
want to-
achieved. We have all kinds of citywide parties. Historic resources goal, generally it carried forward. Carried forward meaning generally duplicated in the updated
I see.
chapter.
Okay.
And then CPA was achieved.
Yep.
So then over here is the 2025 updated resources chapter with goals and strategies. So some strategies are already achieved. We have an open space committee.
Mhm.
There's a goal on tree canopy, and there were strategies about trees that, and some of it were achieved. There was a tree ordinance adopted since 2014, but I think there's like new emphasis
Mhm.
on trees. Again, land conservation was similar to existing. Access to green spaces, pretty similar, although a new emphasis on equitable access.
Mhm.
Water bodies, there was a new emphasis, which I'm kind of surprised about because I'm sure that was a priority in 2014 too, but there were more strategies and more specific.
Mhm.
And then in terms of agriculture, similar to existing, but protecting the land, supporting the industry and the jobs, and food production on public land. And then historic resources, new emphasis on indigenous history and public art.
Yep.
Otherwise similar. Cultural identity similar. Then, yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna say, it's great. Go ahead.
Okay. So then we get land use. So this is the second slide, similar formatting, but about land use. So the goals over here. Open space management. Strategies about establishing an open space committee that was generally carried forward, identifying critical parcels, generally carried forward, adopting CPA that was achieved. So I guess that was in both chapters.
Some things were in multiple chapters.
And open space committee, that's,
That's the
That's.
subcommittee.
yeah, so that's
That's-
Well, this was the 2014. So that was carried forward to the updated and then already achieved.
We actually carried
I don't
it
get that.
forward knowing that the task force was being created because both the master plan and the OSRP call for the creation of an open space committee, and it is a task force, a subcommittee. So we left it in there intentionally that
So it
ultimately
isn't,
Oh,
it isn't technically
committee.
achieved.
okay.
it's not technically achieved. So we left it in there on purpose because we thought ultimately it should be a standalone committee someday.
Good point. Good
Thank
point.
you.
Okay. Unfortunately, I can't take notes on this, but this is all good information. Agriculture. Yeah. So see, this goal about agriculture was in the old land use chapter, and now it's in the new resource chapter. So some of this I've already talked about because
Now it's in the new,
resource chapter.
Oh.
But basically it's very similar. Except for the old plan had something about backyard gardening, which I don't see in the new. Green infrastructure, new words were used, but it's basically very similar. More emphasis on tree canopy, but similar strategies. Okay, and then there was a goal on compact development. And mine, the strategies being about basically reforming zoning everywhere. And I would say that some of these tasks were achieved, such as reducing parking maximums. There was a lot of zoning reform in like 2020, 2021. Others are still in progress, as in the downtown design guidelines. And some of them were removed. There were a lot of tasks under here, but a lot of it was done. Okay, and then, sorry, this is hard. It is kind of hard to navigate online. I'm happy to share this. So then the updated land use chapter, there's a goal specifically about downtown, which I think kind of correlates to that compact goal, but is different, but is slightly different. So there's a new emphasis on downtown, promoting development, gathering spaces, storefronts, volunteers, business support, multimodal access. There's a goal specifically about housing. There was no goal specifically about housing in the 2014 plan, but a lot of the strategies are similar about reforming zoning. So I'm saying it's generally the same. There's a goal about industry, and that's new, and industrial development. There is a goal about water infrastructure, and that's a mixed bag. There's a new strategy on the sewer system. Stormwater management was generally carried forward, but there's new emphasis. Landowner best management practices generally carried forward, and then a new strategy about educating residents. And then there's a new goal and new strategies on solar. So would love corrections and more color on this, but basically I think I'm done. And from this, my conclusion is I kind of get it now. And thank you for all of your work. And I don't want to get in your way anymore. And so I think you should go for and present this to the city council as planned, present this to the mayor as planned, and take it public. My recommendation to the committee would be to make that action oriented, which it seems like,
Oh, sorry, I just stopped sharing.
that's fine, is totally what you all already were considering. I know Jonah had talked about, like if you have a community meeting, focusing it on the open space task force priority conservation parcels, which I think makes a lot of sense because that's like it's an example of implementing this work.
Right.
There's been so much work done. Now let's start being the pavement and like getting the work done and moving past the really laborious drafting and production of the actual chapters. So that's my suggestion. Hold on one moment. I wrote a lot of notes myself. Yeah. Go ahead and do community engagement, and then we would, Amy and I have discussed what our respective departments, what opportunities we see in further implementing some of the strategies, like the Main Street Complete Streets project. So I reaffirm that as like kind of an ask or a recommendation of a priority for the SJIC. And then the last thing I want to say is to clarify my recommendation or my understanding of what supplement versus replace means. But of course, the planning board supersedes my recommendation. So my understanding is we have this really nice PDF of the 2014 plan. We have this really nice PDF of the updated chapters, and then further edited tables from those updated chapters. I think all of that should be posted online. All of that should be released publicly. When I reference land use strategies, I, as a staff, will reference the updated strategies. But we have 2014, like basically for reference. I don't recommend, when I understood, so in that sense, it will replace. The strategies will replace. The table will replace. But I don't recommend actually slicing and dicing the PDF.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just two nice documents. And in some ways, it might have been better if the updated chapters were more fully integratable, if the numbers actually align so you could slice easily. Sometimes that is done. That wasn't done here. So it's really hard to slice. So I think you got a nice 2014, you got a nice updated. They live side by side. When referencing our land use and our resources strategies, I will be referencing the updated ones. That's all I got.
That's a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, that's amazing.
As a helpful, as you put it, high level overview. Yeah. And oh goodness.
No, go ahead.
Well, it just occurs to me as Bram was pointing out the column on the 2014 plan of
New
Status.
status. Because if that were updated on that plan, that would be a helpful, if someone refers back to that. If that column were updated, then anyone referring to that would have, that would be helpful. Very helpful. Yes, Nancy.
I'll pass right now.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I do have a question.
Yeah.
So just to be sure that I have this correct. So when I look at all those tables, and I would love for you to just, send them to all of us and, but there doesn't seem to be anything that was in the 2014 version that got completely left out and that needs to be noticed or made note of? Is that, did I?
There are some things that are not carried forward.
Okay,
I trust that that was intentional, but I leave that to
okay,
the
so maybe
committee
when we get those sheets, we can look at
deliberate.
that.
Mhm,
Yeah, and verify that, yeah,
sure.
that it was intentional.
Amy, did you find the email I sent you a couple days ago that had the sheets that I put together with those?
I did not look, but I can look.
Okay, it was obviously not for today, but if we want, I mean, I think we could let what Ella just shared stand and not go there. But if we want to go there and actually see the correspondences and the gaps, those sheets will tell that story and we could present it next week. I mean, next meeting.
I think it would be helpful if we get whatever you have and if we all get a chance to look at what you put together.
Mhm.
I just want to keep an eye on the time. I think we took a lot more time than was allotted for this, but I think it sounds like it was necessary and helpful. The next part of this agenda item was the event planning subcommittee update, so we probably should move on to that unless someone has something pressing.
Can I
they
ask
wanna
one
add.
super fast question of Bram? Is Bram the document that you're referring to, the Delta report? Do you want me to share that with the committee?
You could share it now, or we could wait until we meet again and I could present it and then people could see it. Because some.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about talking about it now because I think people would want to see it first.
Yes.
But I mean, I have your okay.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And it's a draft. The one other thing just before we go, Amy did manage to get the new master data table that we've all looked at for a while up online. So now we do have the ability to go and click and see the table of, chapters, goals, strategies, actions that we didn't have before. If we have the thing you're talking about, that can also be, you can click a button that says, show me just the things that aren't done or show me the things that are done. That's another benefit if we were to do that work. But I do encourage everybody to go to the page on the city website for the master plan and go down and look at that.
Cool.
And also the SGIC work page is also updated. Thank you so much for doing that, Amy.
Joan, I saw you leaning in. Were you going to say something?
Just about the next topic.
Okay, very good. Let's go to that. Thanks.
Just since our last meeting, speaking with Ella and with the Open Space Task Force, we had talked about moving forward with the Open Space Task Force public engagement with the real focus on the Open Space Task Force map that Ella mentioned, and the work that just the fact that the task force exists and sort of what we're working on as a public engagement opportunity. So I think we do now just have the question of how we want to proceed with these new chapters, and if we want to have them back combined with what we're doing with the open space, or if we want to have that be its own standalone thing.
My reading of the draft minutes from last month, I get the impression because we were in a bit of a muddle about the chapters, there was some hesitancy to include those, but I think we're getting a little more clarity about that, I sense. And it would seem like it would be good to combine them. And as Ella pointed out, have the open space task force material be something that's a more action-oriented example of something coming out of the committee and out of the master plan. I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads. I'm seeing a less nodding head. Please.
Combine the new chapters and the example of what the OSTF has done. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like a lot. To me, it seems like too much of a meeting, too much for one meeting. I would keep them two separate. But
I think part of it depends on our goals with the new chapters. If we were talking about the plan for the open space public engagement being in sort of an introduction to what Open Space Task Force is working on, sharing the map, and then having some breakout groups that focus on different parts of what we're working on, or stations rather, that people could go check in on the different parts of the work. So there could be sort of a very quick overview of the fact that the chapters have been updated, and then it could be a station. So it would have a lot less of the limelight. And I guess that's the question: is how much time an emphasis do we want to have on the updated chapters, or is it more of a side note?
Yes.
Yeah, having the benefit as Francoise does of having been at the Open Space Task Force when we discussed this whole thing. I got very excited about the idea of that this is a standalone meeting for the Open Space Task Force would have it's like that committee has never existed before. And it's like there's an opportunity to introduce that they can introduce this exists and what they're doing. They've done an amazing amount of mapping and stuff. I haven't been involved in that. I've just been
Been an admirer.
I've been admiring. It's amazing. And there's definitely, I just think it would be a great advantage to the town and to townspeople to really have the opportunity to understand that in a deep way. And so back to the SGIC, rolling out 2 chapters. I guess we had this idea that maybe, there would be it would be maybe a panel and there'd be different people talking about different aspects of the 2 chapters and trying to give sort of a holistic view of, because there's recreation in it, there's open space in it, there's so many different, I forget what the other ones are about, but it seemed like, you could be there and
We
anyway.
were talking about a different event.
So I'm thinking rolling out these 2 chapters, SGIC rolling out these 2 chapters, I think would be a great thing.
Mhm.
And I think, but I wouldn't want it to focus on the Open Space Task Force, because I think the Open Space Task Force would be much better off having a full meeting.
2 events.
So 2 events,
Uh-huh.
right? So there would be an Open Space Task Force visible and in the SGIC meeting, but just wouldn't go into all the maps and all the details and all of that stuff.
So the question would be the order. I would suggest we do 1 in May, 1 in September, something like that. Skip the summer. We could do the Open Space Task Force in May. Do a teaser about the chapters in September, something like that, a little bit intro. That's one option.
Yep.
I like it.
And then
Yeah,
we could have like,
because OSTF, I think, is pretty much ready to have ours.
Mhm.
And I feel like the chapter 1, not quite so ready, are we?
fair enough.
So
Any others?
OSTF in May, that's the proposal.
Any other thoughts?
I have heard that opinion and understand it. I think I would still combine it because there's no clear ask. It's really like an informational update. We have this
Right.
new master plan. We would love your help on X, Y, and this open space plan. Let's dive into the open space plan is kind of how I'm imagining it. And to get city council endorsement and like mayoral endorsement before then. But I certainly defer to the group. But that way it's also like it wraps it up.
You get a battling events, one on one side. And yes, Brown.
The thing that Ella just said is my biggest concern. What is the ask? Given that we have, this kind of complicated thing. Oh, well, there's 2 PDFs. There's 2 implementation tables. Ella's recommendation is that we say the new implementation tables is the live ones. The old ones are for reference. But there are things we committed to do in the old that aren't in the new. Somebody who has a dog in that fight might care. So the ask of the old plan, the ask of the old SGIC was come one, come all, and implement this plan with us, right? Into 2014, that was what our job was to go and do. It was a very clear, huge ask, but now it's kind of hard ask. So to me, if you don't view it as an ask, if you just view it as we went through this process, here's the result, here's what you could do with this. It's soft. It's not a real ask.
Boring.
Right.
Boring.
To boil it down to a new ask, where we say, here are the priorities of the new here are the existing priorities of the old. Here's a way that we've sort of pulled it together so that you could reference both. These links go to the new, these links go to the old, but you're looking at a list. I'm brainstorming here. You know, we have just like the SGIC's view is some of these old things are still important. We should be looking at them. Then here are the new things that aren't in the old. They're important. We should be looking at them. Here's the list. If you go click on each thing, you go to the source of it, whether it's the new or the old. Then we have a clear ask, but I don't think that's going to happen without a lot more work. Whereas the open space task force coming before the summer as it's coming, you know, it'd be really nice to really elevate that.
I'll just respond quickly, then I'll get you, Max. One thing I'd say, it's what the planning board is, because it's the planning board document. And I think as Ella has framed it, I think it's helpful. To say, basically, we're saying, there's 2 new chapters. Yeah, it'll be an addendum. Oh, there's some stuff from the old chapters that it'll still be there to be referenced. But the main thing is there are 2 new chapters. And they're fresh chapters, and they had a new process. And here they are to be referenced, and you know.
But it's not an ask. In other words, we're saying, here's some documents, but we're not putting any analysis of them or any prioritization of them or anything like that.
They're the same as the old master plan. There were 7 chapters. These are 2 chapters.
So in other words, go forth and implement these 2 new chapters. That's the
The
ask.
planning board has endorsed.
Can I add
These two
something to the
chapters.
conversation,
But
please?
Max, go ahead, please. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you all for this conversation. I've just been listening. I'm hearing that we want to include the public. I'm also silently hearing that we need help and that we're going to the public to say, help us. So I think if you could frame this, I think you should go to Community Relations Subcommittee to ask to do some sort of partnership. And B, I think if you could set it to where it's like here, like I agree with Ella that it's just we've updated, this is what we did, this is what we're working on. And then if you could frame it as like this is what Open Space Task Force has accomplished and this is what we're looking to do this coming year. Are you interested in doing this? And it could be, you know, based on the master plan would be my suggestion. To have an
Yes.
action-oriented step.
Okay. Thank you, Max.
I would uplift Max's suggestion of going to community relations. I think actually that could be a really interesting group of people to tap into. I also agree that Open Space Task Force is a separate meeting. Feels to me like it would be a really good, exciting, robust meeting. What was striking to me when Ella went through the changes is that we actually have done a lot and formed other groups. And I think we oftentimes do a really bad job of celebrating that we actually did stuff. And I don't think there would be necessarily anything wrong with the ask being like, come learn about the things that we did. And we created all of these committees, CPC, Open Space Task Force, Parks and Rec with all these events. And all of those groups could use more public engagement. So come hear about what we've hear about what we've done, hear about the things that we've created and learn how you can tap into all of these new, even if they're not super new anymore, things going on. It doesn't have to always be like a deep ask. And I think if we get into the weeds of like, here's an old table and a new table, and this is how the internet would, I don't think people outside of people in planning and economic development are going to necessarily care, maybe planning board too. But I think they will care about hearing that like, oh, actually we're doing things and that's great.
Clarification, are you advocating for 2 events?
I not a hill on which I'm going to die, but 2 events to me make sense, in particular because I can see Open Space Task Force being a really robust, great conversation. And I agree that I wouldn't want that meeting to get eaten up with conversation about chapters.
Thank
Would,
you. Then Nancy.
the only thing that kind of makes sense to me is that the chapters, maybe should come first because then it introduces these things. However, I go back to the fact that I don't think maybe we're ready for the SGIC one. That's all.
Yes.
I love your idea of celebrating. That's brilliant. And it doesn't have to take a huge amount of time of a meeting. It can be cut, that part can be short, in fact. And then I actually love I think I heard you say, that you can introduce the two chapters, but have an emphasis on the open space task force because there's specific opportunities for input into some of like the maps or whatever. So that would be, and you're asking something that's interesting, you're engaging people. I don't think anybody cares about all, except for maybe a few people, the planner people, about all the intricacies of how these things fit together or what happened in order to get where we are now, or just, let's do it all. And in a way that doesn't shortchange the open space task force and that celebrates our successes.
Amy, let me ask, when you were talking about celebrating these different things that happened, which event were you talking about? The Open Space Task Force or the other one?
I was talking about the other one, but
Yeah.
I think actually what Nancy said right there is great, that the master plan / updated chapter / celebration doesn't have to be an hour and a half at the John's on, whatever. It can be 5 minutes and some posters or something. Like it can present the new chapters and tee up the open space task force and then turn the floor over to them.
I think you could also,
Go ahead,
sorry,
Beth.
I think you could also do like how the library community rooms have art up on the walls, or Lava just did something for the tree committee. That
Well,
way that people can see it.
as far as a venue, you mean?
Even just to like if you're not trying to plan a whole party celebration, but you still want people to see like all the work that's been done. Like people go to Lava just to
Yeah.
hang out and read what's on the wall, and
Oh,
like there's plenty of walls around town where you can put the posters up. Is what I'm saying.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that no one gets excited about a table, but the table represents a lot of richness. And the table from 2014, the events we've had that have been very successful over the years have been about what has been accomplished and what concretely has happened, and the things that we were intermittently clapping about. Some of them were quite wonderful, and and through the years, as we've had all these meetings, there have been some wonderful things we've cheered about, and that most members of this community might not have known about or only occasionally heard about. And it is great because that's what the whole master plan process is, trying to set some lofty goals and then incrementally move toward them as a community. And so again, finding some way to capture how that inspiring that is and how much has been accomplished and how much can again be accomplished through these refreshed chapters. So that seems like there's a lot of substance there, and that's not 5 minutes. So someone else was going to talk this. Yes.
I was gonna ask Jonah, since you're so enmeshed in leadership of the Open Space Task Force, like your thoughts on at this point.
I like what I'm hearing and agree with a lot of what folks are saying, even though some of it's contradictory. I agree with both sides. But to me, I mean, thinking brass tacks and just like making something happen in May, which will be here quickly.
Yep.
If it were to be included in the open space, if it was to be one combined event, I think it would not be as maybe the scale that some folks are mentioning of its fullness. I think it could be included in a smaller way if we were to try to do it as one whole thing in May, unless somebody else has the time and energy to put more into what that chapter component would be. I think that's the question for me, is if somebody else is taking a lead on that and able to spend some time celebrating our success, doing the work to present and celebrate our successes, I think that would be great to include. But if not, I think like waiting on that would make sense to do it more fully. That's just a logistics capacity perspective.
Yes, Ella.
Mr. Chair, I'm really excited about this. Love this idea. I'd be happy to work on preparing some kind of celebration of successes. And it'd be easier for me to do it, I think, like fast and soon than big and later. But like, I could feel like I could do a 10-minute presentation with the help of perhaps others, colleagues.
That's perfect.
Love it.
Fast and soon is easier than big and late. Oh, you said?
Yeah.
What she just, she's in the middle of you're in the depths of the bowels of the thing right now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a big event that's only about that is
Uh,
more intimidating. I would really need a lot more support to like organize the event. But if I can piggyback on someone else's event, that feels much more doable. But I'm happy to do either. It's exciting, and I kind of defer to the group. Like if you think it should be like from a more citywide perspective later, then I'm happy to defer to the group. But I feel like I could do at least 5 minutes, but maybe more like 10 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds.
I think
And
that
I
sounds
think-
awesome and perfect.
Sure.
I guess my one
Sure.
other question in the logistics realm is are the next steps feasible in the next 2 months as far as getting city council and mayor?
Right, endorsement.
Right.
I guess I defer to Max and Amy or whoever thinks that's.
I think you would have needed to turn in materials for the meeting of March on Tuesday. So I think we might have missed that one. But for April, we're in the clear.
Okay.
And I don't see it being the only thing I would see like being a hot topic is like attrition of city cars. And we've got like the police asking for new cars, but they have other EVs that aren't working. And as DPW gets new cars and even like the assessors, I think there would just wanting to be a process of department heads going to Carol to double check that they're meeting the requirements. Otherwise, I think you would have no problem with the city council or the mayor. I mean, I can't speak for the mayor, but
Thank you. And again, it's an endorsement we're looking for, not a vote per se. So just to be clear. Yeah, I think Joni had your hand and then Amy.
Well, I just wanted to be clear on what that process would look like. Could we send it via email in advance for folks to read, or would it be just brand new at the April meeting and ask folks to endorse something that is quite in depth?
you would send it to the city clerk
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
she would email it to all of the counselors. If it's just like an endorsement, have you done this before?
In 2014?
Okay. Were we a city then? Yes. I think it's just, like we take it's either the council president endorses it and we all say yes, or I don't know. I think, Amy, you may have more info than I do.
Not really, but I have a plan.
Safety.
I think if Ella and I are putting together a 10-minute celebratory something, we can start doing that, assuming that this will sail through gloriously. And if we get to May and we realize that we're up against it, Jonah, I'm sure, can fill our 10-minute slot in the open space task force meeting with just more open space task force. So I feel like we should move ahead as though it's going to pass. We should submit as soon as possible in order to get it on the agenda in April. And then I think we should have some one-on-one conversations with city councilors just to give them a chance to hear about this and talk about it in advance of the April meeting so that it's not like the first time they see it is the night before the April meeting.
Yeah.
So
You also could, sorry to interrupt one more time. You also could invite Ella to the meeting, and Ella could do the 10-minute presentation as an invited city official. Because I don't think been to the meeting and Laura likes to do that? An
Not,
option.
I would really encourage representatives of the committee that wrote the plan, but
Totally.
happy to be tasked. I'm gonna have to head
But
out.
you're the planner.
So this.
You can task me with the things.
But
This-
somebody could present it at a city council meeting as a group.
Gotcha.
Presenting what? Presenting the fact that we have 2 new chapters and asking the council or somebody to endorse, accept it?
So we would, I think the idea, the way I see this happening is that we would submit for April. Max, would it need 2 readings?
And what are you submitting exactly?
Yeah,
I am submitting the new chapters along with the planning board's recommendation that the 2 new updated chapters be adopted by the city council as the,
oh,
And I think this would be
Yes.
Jeff as planning board chair.
okay, Jeff would be submitting it.
Perfect.
But I do think that Ella's walkthrough of the updates and changes was at a great level for city council to absorb.
Mhm.
And so if it needs to go throughs at city council, Ella could come to the first one. I'm happy to support you at it. Or could just come anyway, even if only one.
Do you think it would need to go through economic development and they would give a positive recommendation and then pass it to council?
Would that
Like
be
who-
like being the chair's call, meeting Laura's? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what route it would go, but yeah, I would send it to Tammy and Kathy and Laura and they can tell you exactly what will happen.
And by me, she means Jeff.
Sure.
But
All right.
if you want to loop me in, I'm happy to support. Jeff can reach out to me and I'm.
Very
happy
good.
to-
we don't need any of this for the open space meeting, right? We can have it regardless. We don't. need-
No, and we'll
Okay.
move ahead with our
Okay.
10-minute thing as though it's gonna go fine.
Okay,
And if for some reason it doesn't, we'll bail on Jonah and he will fill the 10 minutes with open space and we'll be.
Okay.
sorry.
Okay,
sure.
very good. I'm afraid,
5:16.
this is all stuff, time sensitive stuff we had to work on, but it's taken up a lot of time. So we have less time than necessary for some of these other items. So,
They are short, so you're gonna be.
well,
excited.
they're not according to the designated time, but Main Street Complete Streets Project. Discussion of requests is a follow-up from last month.
Yep.
Request from mayor that SGIC engage in research, find experience of other communities that have gone through this process. Where does
So
that-
this is a me thing. I think at the last meeting, I said that I would write out a scope of work. I don't know why I suggested that. And when I went to go do that, I think I just overcomplicated the ask at the last meeting. It's really a very straightforward one. Is the ask is to do outreach to other communities, to look around Massachusetts or beyond and find other communities that have gone through a Main Street redesign process, like we are going to be heading into, and to talk to them and get lessons learned, best practices, pitfalls that we should avoid, particularly geared around public engagement. In
Mhm.
other words, it doesn't matter where they put their water line, not that level, but how did they engage or not with the public and with the businesses, and what could we learn so that we don't make the same mistakes?
And next step is it?
That is the ask from the mayor, if this committee would help in that work. So this committee can either say yes or no. I mean,
And the thing you were gonna put together, you haven't, or, well,
because I don't think I need to
Don't
for
need to.
those 3
Okay.
sentences. I mean, if you
Very
tell
good.
me that I was not clear enough, that's fine, but I just
Thank you.
didn't feel like a good use of my time to write those sentences
you
out.
got it. Nancy?
Do I remember correctly that Hannah or you had a list of communities that have done this?
Oh.
So that we don't have. to-
Both Hannah and I do have just ones that we're aware of. Neither of us have, well, I can't speak for
There's
Hannah.
not that many of us, so, if we had 3,
Yeah, we
then,
can certainly give you places to start.
okay.
And then,
So then we just need to contact those, maybe it's a question of how many people on this committee would be willing to take a town on.
or if this
Cool.
committee wants to form like a small task force subcommittee group, I don't know that that's necessary because but
And those towns will also perhaps know other towns. We don't have enough.
And am I right that the timeline I saw in the rough draft minutes. This is not urgent at the moment.
The Main Street project is currently scheduled for 2029.
Okay.
So there is copious amounts of time, but we don't want to wait until 2028 to begin public engagement. So it's not
So
it's not a thing that needs to happen next month. There's
we can continue it on next month's agenda.
for sure.
Okay, good.
People are comfortable with that?
Great.
Okay. Community leader, climate leader communities designation. Next steps about invitation for SDIC to become the official local committee that is required for a climate leader designation application. Who's leading this? Nancy?
Yeah, I got a report from Carol Collins that she apologized for not being able to make this meeting. She feels pretty confident that she will make the March meeting, and she would be interested in reporting at that time what she's been doing, and that we can have a discussion and move it forward at that time.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions about that? I guess not. We'll hear next month. Great. Next item is committee schedule, member roles and responsibilities. Proposal to shift to a quarterly meeting schedule for the immediate future.
This was a topic that Ella and I had discussed, where I think this may be just our internal schedules, but it felt like meetings were starting to pile up on one another and there wasn't enough time in between meetings to do thoughtful work. And our meetings were spent having conversations that maybe weren't as necessary if we had had more time in between. And so we thought maybe instead of meeting every month while we were working through this table and chapter process, if we extended the time between meetings to give folks a chance to actually do the work and read the documents, that would be helpful. I think given where we are now after this meeting, that we can withdraw that for now.
Okay. Announcements and updates. At the time of posting, there were no topics reasonably anticipated by the chairperson. My understanding is if there was anything that couldn't have been anticipated 48 hours before the meeting, it could be mentioned.
Sure.
Are there any such announcements? Seeing none. The next meeting
Nancy
is,
has-
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Nancy.
Sorry. Since we have a few minutes, is that accurate? Can I bring something up?
Well, not if it's not on the agenda.
It relates to the long conversation we've been having about.
Oh, it's on something we're continuing.
Correct.
Oh, please. Yeah.
Correct, yeah. So at one point we we created a task force to think about the public meeting. And so I'm just wanted to see whether that, Jonah, you were on it.
You talking about the subcommittee thing?
The
The event
community
planning
engagement.
subcommittee?
Event planning, correct.
Yeah, yeah.
That one. So I guess I just wanted to check in and see, does that still exist? And if
Oh.
that committee taking what we heard today and meeting and thinking or doing something about it, or what's the deal?
Well, my thought is the way we had reframed it at the last open space meeting is that we would be introducing all of what open space is focused on right now, so that it would be more something that's planned within open space, and then Ella and Amy could do the chapter part. So I don't know that we need that separate group anymore. I think the only one left out is George on that. So George, I guess I'll leave it to you if you would like to be involved in the planning of that event.
Was I on that subcommittee?
You were, we only met once, but yes.
As a planning board representative.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
That's
right,
right.
you did.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to be part of that. Thank you.
So yeah, so you could, I guess if it's around the chapters, maybe it's you coordinating with Ella and Amy around what that component will look like, since that's the angle that you're interested in being present as a planning board rep.
Well, especially because of getting planning board involvement
Yeah.
in that.
Right.
So that was why I wanted to be on that committee. Thank you for
So maybe you.
Well, I missed one meeting. I'm out of the loop.
And
Yes.
I would actually like to be on, I mean, I'm the whole thing about having, you know how I love charts. And I'm thinking, I want to be able to think about the celebration, what we've accomplished, and some kind of, something that we could put up on the wall that then people could put little stickies on like they have at the previous meetings. I haven't
Mhm.
really, I haven't thought it through yet. So, but anyway, I'm foolish enough to want to raise my hand and, and be involved in that.
Okay.
For the open space project, had that been something you folks had in mind, or was something relevant like that where you would I know I just
So the open space is doing their thing.
No, no.
This is sort of the chapter thing.
I understand.
Oh, okay.
I was just at the bike planning.
Yes, I'd love to hear about
Mm.
that.
No, I wasn't going to talk about that, but I was just at that meeting where they had a lot of opportunity to put things on maps and things like that. So it's a very, it's a great way to engage people in an activity. And I was just curious, and as far as the overall event, if that was the kind of thing that might fit into your project of having people, because you're going to have map kind of stuff. And if that might be something where people might engage with the maps and something like that. I'm just thinking how the
Definitely.
Yes, that is
Okay.
the vision, is that there would be a group presentation / discussion and then a breakout with stations where people would be interacting.
Thank you. That's what I was wondering. So, and it sounds like, Nancy, you're trying to have something comparable with, related to the chapters where people might express an interest in a particular
Yeah,
component or something like that.
accomplishments and what, you haven't had a chance to think about it, but I like to think about it.
Yeah, or maybe future accomplishments or
I'll
tasks or something like that.
pester one of you guys.
Nice.
Something comes to me.
Nice.
Never a
nice.
pester.
It will. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One other follow-up on that is who's sending, is somebody sending to city council? Is somebody take?
Planning board chair.
Planning board chair is sending. Okay, so you're.
Jeff. I'll
you're
talk with Jeff.
I see. Okay, great.
Yeah. And to the mayor.
Great.
And Max, quick question. Since you had brought up the community relations subcommittee, which I assume you're on, or your chair, or no, you're not. Okay. So
The chair is Sarah Brown, who I'm replacing. So
gotcha. Do you happen to know the schedule of that subcommittee or the committee?
they meet the third Monday of the month, but there might be a reschedule because they didn't meet this past Monday.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Thank you.
but with this agendas, you wouldn't be able to, it would be on the April agenda.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Any other, well, we're almost out of time. There's nothing else that was on the agenda. Our next meeting is March 26th at 4, hybrid.
Won't be there.
Here and via Zoom. And we'll have to do a roll call vote after someone makes a motion to adjourn and we have a second.
A motion to adjourn.
Second. Third.
I vote aye.
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 Hey.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Yay.
Take care, everyone.
At 5.
Guys,
Glad to have you with us, Max.
Thanks.
you.
I wish you guys were here to eat the banana bread.